Hey guys, Table here. Today we're going to be talking about overarching game strategy. Got a game in the Eugen for you. Got Von Mueller on the screen here, Yamamoto, Von Essen. Von Essen's extremely low level currently, not relevant, but I do have him in there because I will promote him within the next couple months. Tears of the Desert, domination mode game. We're going to talk about setting up crossfires in cruisers. That's the point I want to arrive at some point. But I want to start, I talked about, viewing this game primarily as a strategy game and using board games as an analogy. We've talked about that on streams. We've hinted at it on videos. I want to try and figure out a way to talk about it more and more because I think the more players that have mastered kind of the core concepts of the game, sailing around, aiming, shooting, how to score, how to win, things of that nature. The more players that are above average in skill, in other words, that can start visualizing the game in a strategic sense, I think that'll improve the gameplay. If you're a newer player and you're kind of sitting there thinking, well, that doesn't sound like me quite yet, it's still good to learn about this sort of thing. You want to kind of, even if you're still working on the mechanics or you're still sorting out kind of some of the decision making, I think having a good overarching idea of what you're trying to do is always a good thing. Trying to get some strategy involved into your own gameplay, always a good thing. This isn't like rocket science here, but it's just a new way to approach the game, at least one that I'm trying to expand on here. So basically what's going to happen is you have pieces that are deployed on the map, and your team has 3 pieces currently: destroyers, cruisers, battleships. We're going to get a new type of piece in the future, aircraft carriers. And then there's subclasses within the different cruisers, the different destroyers, so on, so forth. Now, if we examine the battleship role in particular, in general, they're there to kind of do 2 things. They're there to attract the fire of the enemies, do it safely. If they're angled properly, they can absorb a lot of that damage. They're there to hold down positions, but they're also there to create crossfires. Now, we've talked about creating crossfires a lot when we're covering battleships, trying to play off your fellow battleships. Same concept applies for cruisers and, frankly, destroyers. Creating crossfires is it's one of the main ways that your team scores in this game. And scoring, there's 2 different ways to score. You can get points and you can do damage against the team's health pool. So one of the ways we score is create crossfires. How do we create crossfires? We figure out where our team's battleships are on the map. Then we get enough distance between them and us so that the enemy is forced to angle towards those battleships, who can knock them out in one shot if they're not properly angled. And by you creating space between you and that battleship, now you are in position where you're shooting them on the sides of the ships. Because if they're angled at that battleship and the battleship's 10 kilometers to the left, you move off to utilize that position. Then when that enemy ship points himself at your friendly battleship, now you have access to that side. Doesn't matter if you're in a cruiser, you're going to be seeing that as this game develops. We're going to intentionally create crossfires here, and it's because both of our battleships wind up basically on top of each other in A over here. So once we kind of get out of this situation, we're going to be seeing those crossfires in action. Same thing with the destroyers. And destroyers have a very interesting thing because they actually the need to angle against destroyers overrides the need to angle against battleships. Let's say I'm angled against a battleship 15 kilometers away, and then I know I got a destroyer coming to my side. I have to turn towards the destroyer. If I don't, those torpedoes hit me in the side. They're going to be 3, 4, 5 torpedoes hitting me, dead. So I got to point towards that destroyer to either, maybe take 1 torp, maybe 2 if I'm unlucky, or potentially dodge them all. You can't do that if you're broadside towards those torpedoes. You can do it if you're pointing at them. So a destroyer can supersede the priority of angling. You got the torpedo threat, then the battleship threat, then cruiser guns and destroyer guns, I suppose, would be at the bottom of that totem pole. So if you begin to view your battleship, either you as the battleship player or the battleships on your team, as kind of pieces that you place on the map strategically. I put one battleship over here, I put one battleship over here, and those are the points that my team wants to force the enemy to angle towards. Now I start positioning other ships, cruisers, destroyers, potentially a flanking type battleship, in positions where they kind of create these crossfires. Now we're scoring a lot in terms of damage, because rather than sitting nose in, 5 battleships in the back, squared off against 5 nose in battleships on the enemy, trading 1,000 damage per salvo every 30 seconds, that's low scoring. That's poor offense. That's poor strategy overall. Very common, but poor. But if we were actively creating these crossfires by using the map, using our team's positioning, using those battleships as orientation points, I suppose you could say, for the enemy's focus, then as the game develops, now our ability to score skyrockets, because we got multiple ships shooting the enemy in the sides, and that's when we're racking up the damage. So here we're kind of redeploying. All right, we've captured the point that we spawned on here. We've kind of gotten into a stalemate situation where there was one nose-in battleship down there. They got 2 other battleships and whatever else is over there. So we turned our focus over here to attack this Z-23, the eyes and the ears. We're not going to talk a whole lot about the destroyer's strategic role, but that is the strategic role of the destroyer, eyes and ears. So very important piece. We want to eliminate him. Got some damage in on him. Unfortunately, it looks like, he was over there taking on that Akatsuki on our team. Got rid of him. So he flipped the cap, killed one of our destroyers. Strong play by the Z-23. He's the last destroyer on the enemy team, though. But anyway, we're using these 2 battleships. We're saying, okay, they're both located in the same spot. Savvy players on the enemy team, sooner or later, will be angling towards them. So now I'm going to try and come over here. Number 1, we wanted to attack the destroyer. Number 2, we want to advance on this cap, help flip it, or stop the accrual of points. But C, space ourselves out from the battleships. That's always a consideration. It can't be the main or the only driving force, But if you can create that space between you and the battleships, should pay off. Martel's doing a very good job angling here. Very good job dodging torps. I believe he keeps going back and forth. And this is a player that's actually in the same clan that I'm in, which is a clan of, pretty high level win rate players. So undoubtedly a good player. I didn't notice who it was at the time, but we talked after this game. Doing a very good job here. But we're going to see, right now he's dueling me and maybe to a lesser extent this destroyer. But once these battleships start chiming in from the cap that we just left over there, he's going to be forced to angle with regards to their position. And that's the power of creating these crossfires. You can see there's shots going in. He does take a shot there, and he gets a little nervous. He is not yet quite ready to commit to that turn. In fact, he waits for us to shoot, but he's got more incoming fire there into the broadside. He's forced to say, okay, the Eugen, while very dangerous, is not quite as dangerous as these battleships. Unfortunately for him, due to the fact that we hit the shot and the ship is very dangerous, it was still too much. So that's one of those created crossfires that we kind of manufactured there. You can create these crossfires intentionally or unintentionally. If you're paying attention to your battleship's position and you're creating space, then that's creating them intentionally. If you just happen to be sailing around and you're looking on the map, kind of looking for broadsides, you're going to be creating those situations unintentionally. Z-23 is still in the picture here. We pop the reload boost. I'm trying to get rid of that ship. Anytime you can remove the final destroyer from the enemy team, very powerful. But you can see here now we're kind of forced to play out of here. The Jean Bart's got our position pinned, so we cannot advance closer to those objectives without getting blown up. He's also got the support from the Baltimore. We do continue to have support, and look at the angling. They're both angled again towards the position on A, and we're kind of playing a little bit loose here because we recognize we do have opportunities to shoot these ships in the side, so I'm being a little lackadaisical with my own defense, and you can critique that portion of this play here. Say maybe be less inclined to fire a full broadside every time, more focused on the protection of your ship. Valid criticism, but we do have these opportunities where we have these ships. They were pinned down, they were both going forward, then they slammed on the brakes. Now they're reversing, but they're still forced to angle towards the stronger threats, the battleships, which you cannot make the mistakes with your angling against them. They can kill you with a one shot. You can make mistakes against this, but you can see we're still going to be continuing to do a lot of damage here. Jean Bart's angled enough, and we got enough distance on these shots. Probably should be switching over to HE here. But again, I was kind of gung-ho to attack these broadsides while they existed. But German cruisers, the whole point of Von Essen is to enhance the arc that those things are considered, the targets are considered broadside. But eventually, one of the weaknesses of the German cruisers is their penetration angles are not as generous as, say, the British or the Americans. So the more angled the target is, the less profitable those AP salvos are. Z23, we briefly switched to HE, then we switched back to AP, recognizing how low he was and recognizing the fact that our team's also shooting at him. I figure maybe one or two salvos with the AP can kill him, but I want to keep the AP loaded here because we still have these ships. They're still angled towards our battleships, or rather battleship in this case, but basically my entire team's kind of in a line except for us. We're in the crossfire position. So the smart money has them angling towards the bulk of our fleet. So I want to keep the AP loaded as often as possible. Z23 pops back up. He's in the cloud there, I think. Our destroyer is moving in with his sonar active. He shoots, he gets rid of him, and then I believe the smoke protects him from the Baltimore. I'm a little nervous about him being that close to that ship with the radar, but the Baltimore is occupied, luckily, for that destroyer. Now we're up a ship. Finally, the score is very close here, so time is of the essence in this game. We need to get on one of their caps to stop them from accruing points. We got to make sure they don't get on one of ours and allow the score to get out of control all of a sudden. But there we're able to access that citadel, and again, that's because we've been in this crossfire position for, what has it been, 5 to 10 minutes, somewhere in that range at this point in time. And really, all we had to do to get in this position was let the game develop. We had our opening move, and your opening move typically is going to last anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes, let's say. Obviously it varies every game. But once you've kind of done whatever you set off to do right when the game starts, then you reevaluate. We recognize an opportunity to chase the Z23, and while we were at it, we recognized the opportunity to get some really good scoring in for our team. And again, we're talking about team HP and removing it. That's the type of scoring. Not necessarily points, although we were interested in playing this cap that we were, the one we're buying now. It was in the process of being flipped. So moving in this direction, we also supported the actual game scoring as well. So you always got two different metrics of scoring that are in play in every game. As the games develop, one metric, either the actual game score or the team HP score, will gain in importance. Sometimes they both stay equally important until the end. You got to really focus on them. Sometimes one of them drops off. If they run up a huge lead in terms of actual game score, then you got to really focus on killing all the ships because, the score can become insurmountable at a certain point in time, and vice versa. If they're up 8 ships to 2, killing them all, extremely unlikely. You got to look for possible ways to win on score. Sometimes, for instance, take the Lone Warrior medal. I'd say 9 out of 10 of those is when your team was doing a really good job with the score, but they get rocked in terms of ship count scoring, team HP scoring. So you'll get wildly out of balance on those, but you'll still win on score. That's how you would get your typical solo warrior medal. So anyway, just hopefully you guys kind of enjoyed this video. This is the kind of thinking that I enjoy doing. It's, I think to incorporate the strategic thinking in your game, the more and more you can do it, the more it's going to improve your overall game. Your win rate should go up dramatically once you start actually thinking about the game in terms of less of an action shooter type of a game and more of a strategy game that has first person shooter elements incorporated into it. The people that I think are so narrowly focused on the shooting, they're the ones that are zoomed in through the telescope the entire game, not really paying attention to what they're doing. Those are the ones that are constantly throwing the game that drive us all crazy. On the opposite end are the strategic thinkers. You know, frankly, I'd rather have someone who's average at shooting but good at reading the game and good at thinking the game on my team. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Let me know in the comments what you thought. If that's something you're interested in more of along those type of lines, let me know. But anyway, that's going to do it for that one, guys. If you did enjoy it, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing. A lot of World of Warships coming all the time. Again, questions, comments, leave below, and we'll see you later. Peace!